The millionaire falls for the pregnant black beggar, kicks her out, and she lives in the park. The wind was a knife, slicing right through Millie's threadbare coat. 6 months gone, belly round and hard, and here she was, homeless. All thanks to that creep landlord and his sudden renovations. Chicago in late November wasn't playing around. Each breath was a painful reminder, a puff of white against the gray sky. The city noises, usually a comforting hum, now just screamed her despair. Then, like something out of a movie, a black town car, shinier than a new penny, purred to a stop right in front of her bench. The back door swung open, and out stepped, well, a dream in a suit. Daniel Thompson, tall, dark hair, eyes that could melt glaciers. A freaking millionaire, probably. "Miss," he said, his voice smooth as silk, "are you all right? You look chilled." Chilled? She was freezing her butt off. But all right? No way. She was pregnant, broke, and sleeping on a park bench. "I'm fine," she mumbled, trying to pull her coat tighter. He didn't buy it for a second. "Nonsense. Come on. Let me get you somewhere warm." He held out his hand, his manicured, millionaire hand. Against her better judgment, she took it. What choice did she have? Daniel's penthouse was something else. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, and a silence that hummed with money. It was a universe away from the park bench. For a few days, Millie felt like she'd won the lottery. Hot showers, warm meals, and someone actually caring about her. But then, things started to get weird. Daniel was attentive. Like, really attentive. Always knowing where she was, what she was doing. Asking questions about her past, her friends, her family. He was charming, sure, but under the charm, something felt off. Then, things started disappearing. Small things. A library card. A faded photo of her late mom. She'd swear she put them right there on the table. One night, when Daniel was out on business, Millie got brave. She snuck into his study, a room that reeked of power and expensive cologne. His computer was open. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But she did. She found a file labeled Project Nightingale. Inside were dossiers, files on women, all with similar stories to hers, struggling, vulnerable, and then Daniel. And after Daniel, disappearances, custody battles, horrible stuff. Her blood ran cold. Was she next? Was this all a game to him? She needed to get out, now. But how? He seemed to know her every move. As she frantically searched for a way out, her fingers brushed against a crumpled napkin on his desk. Scrawled on it in messy handwriting were the words, "The canary sings at midnight." What the heck did it mean? Was it a warning? Or a promise? Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo, para garantir que você ainda está inscrito. No canal? Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. The canary sings at midnight. What the heck did it mean? Was it a warning? Or a promise? Midnight, that was hours away. Hours she didn't have. She had to get out. Now. Millie rummaged through her borrowed purse. A few crumpled bills. A tube of lip balm and a small silver whistle. Where had she gotten that? She didn't remember, but it felt important. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. Daniel was back. Panic flared. She ducked behind a heavy velvet curtain, heart hammering against her ribs. "Millie? Honey, I'm home." His voice, usually so smooth, sounded strained. She peeked through a gap in the fabric. He was in the study, pacing. On the phone. "Yes, the Nightingale is almost ready." "No, no problems. Just waiting for the right moment." "Midnight." "Yes, as planned." He hung up. Millie's breath hitched. Nightingale. That file. It was her. He was talking about her. She had to move. Now, she crept along the wall towards the door. Just a few more feet. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked. Daniel spun around. "Millie? What are you doing here?" His eyes narrowed. The charming mask slipped, revealing something cold and hard. I was just looking for the bathroom," she stammered, hating how weak she sounded. He didn't believe her. Not for a second. He took a step closer. "The bathroom is that way, darling." He pointed in the opposite direction. His voice was soft, dangerous. Millie knew she was trapped. She had to do something. Anything. She grabbed the silver whistle from her purse and blew. A piercing shriek filled the penthouse. It was so loud, so shrill, it hurt her ears. Daniel recoiled, covering his ears. What the hell? And then, everything changed. The walls started to shake. Not like an earthquake, but like something was trying to break through. The windows rattled. The furniture trembled. Daniel stared, his face a mask of confusion and fear. Suddenly, the wall behind him exploded. Not with a bang, but with a blinding flash of light. Dust and debris filled the air. Millie squeezed her eyes shut, shielding her face. When she opened them, Daniel was gone, and in his place stood a woman, tall, powerful, with eyes that glowed like embers. She wore a shimmering suit of armor, and her hair was a halo of fire. "It is time," she said, her voice like thunder. "The canary has sung." Millie stared, speechless. Who was this woman? What was happening? Then the woman turned to her, and her fiery eyes softened. "Millie," she said, "we have been waiting for you." And then, the truly shocking part, the part that made Millie's stomach drop to her toes. The woman reached out her hand, and as she did, a faint, familiar birthmark appeared on the back of her hand. The exact same birthmark that Millie had. The one her late mother had always told her was a sign of. "Mom?" Millie whispered, her voice trembling. "Is that you?" Before the woman could answer, a guttural roar echoed through the penthouse. From the shattered wall, something huge and shadowy emerged. It had glowing red eyes and razor-sharp claws. "They found us." The woman, "Mom," said, her voice tight with urgency. "We have to go, now." She grabbed Millie's arm, and together, they leaped out the shattered window, into the cold Chicago night. The last thing Millie saw, before the ground rushed up to meet them, was the monstrous shadow lunging towards them, its roar shaking the very foundations of the city. What the hell was going on? And what did any of this have to do with Daniel or her baby? What the hell was going on? And what did any of this have to do with Daniel or her baby? They were falling, really falling. Chicago's lights blurred below, a dizzying swirl of yellow and white. Millie squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for impact. This was it. This was how it ended. Pregnant, betrayed, and plummeting to her death. Then a rush of wind, a sickening lurch, and nothing. She opened her eyes. They weren't falling anymore. They were floating, hovering above the city, suspended in midair. "Hold on tight!" Mom, if that really was her mom, yelled over the wind. "This is gonna be rough." Rough? Try impossible. But what choice did she have? She clung to her mom for dear life as they shot off, faster than a speeding bullet, towards nowhere. They landed hard in a deserted alleyway, somewhere far from Daniel's penthouse. Millie stumbled, her knees buckling. She was dizzy, nauseous, and completely terrified. "What was that thing?" she gasped, pointing back in the direction of the building. "What are you?" Her mom just shook her head. "No time for questions. We need to move. They'll be coming." "Who's they?" Millie demanded, her voice rising. "And what is going on? One minute I'm homeless, the next I'm fighting monsters with my mom, who's apparently some kind of superhero." "It's complicated," her mom said, her face grim. "And we don't have time. Just trust me, okay?" Trust her? After everything that had happened? After Daniel? But what else could she do? She took a deep breath and nodded. They ran, until their lungs burned and their legs ached. They ran until they reached a rundown motel on the outskirts of the city. Inside, the room was dingy and smelled of stale cigarettes, but it was safe, for now. Her mom finally stopped, turned to Millie, and sighed. "Okay," she said. "It's time you knew the truth." She told Millie everything, about a secret war raging for centuries between good and evil, about ancient bloodlines, magical powers, and a prophecy foretelling the arrival of a chosen one. And then the bombshell. "You, Millie," her mom said, her voice low. "You're the chosen one." Millie stared at her, dumbfounded. Chosen one? Her? The pregnant, broke, almost homeless girl from Chicago? It was insane. "But I don't have any powers," she stammered. "I can't even balance my checkbook." "You will," her mom said, her eyes shining. "The powers are dormant, but they'll awaken when the time is right." Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through Millie's stomach. She cried out, clutching her belly. "Millie, what's wrong?" Her mom rushed to her side, her face etched with concern. "The baby," Millie gasped. "Something's happening." Her mom examined her, her expression growing increasingly worried. "This isn't normal labor," she said. "Something's wrong." Another pain ripped through Millie, even stronger than before. She screamed, arching her back. And then it happened. Not a baby's cry, not a gentle gurgle, but a blood-curdling shriek that echoed through the motel room. Millie collapsed back on the bed, weak and trembling. Her mom stood frozen, her face a mask of horror. Lying in Millie's arms wasn't a baby. It was something else. Something small, scaly and reptilian. Something with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth. Something monstrous. Her baby was a dragon. Her baby was a dragon. Millie couldn't breathe. A dragon? A freaking dragon? She looked from the scaly creature in her arms to her mom, whose face was whiter than a ghost. "Mom, what is this?" she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. Her mom didn't answer. She just stared, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and recognition, as if she knew something Millie didn't, something awful. Suddenly, the motel room door burst open, not with a crash, but with a slick, almost silent movement. Two figures stood silhouetted in the doorway, tall, lean, and dressed in black from head to toe. "There she is," one of them said, their voice cold and devoid of emotion. "The canary and her offspring. They weren't human." Millie could feel it in her bones. Something about their presence, the way they moved, the way their eyes gleamed in the dim light. They were something else. Like Daniel, but different. More controlled, more dangerous. "Who are you?" Millie demanded, trying to sound braver than she felt. Her arms tightened around the little dragon, a fierce protectiveness rising within her. It was still her baby, no matter what it was. The figures didn't answer. They just moved, gliding across the room with an unnerving grace. They were fast, too fast. Her mom lunged forward, shoving Millie behind her. "Get out of here," she yelled. "Take the baby and run. I'll hold them off." "No, I'm not leaving you," Millie cried, but her mom was already fighting, moving with a speed and ferocity Millie never knew she possessed. But the figures were too strong, too skilled. They dodged her attacks, countering with blows that seemed to crack the very air around them. Millie watched in horror as her mom was thrown against the wall, landing in a heap on the floor. "Mom!" she screamed, but it was too late. The figures were advancing on her now, their eyes fixed on the dragon in her arms. "Give it to us," one of them said, their voice like ice. "It belongs to us." Millie shook her head, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't, she wouldn't. This was her baby. But she knew she couldn't win. She was weak, exhausted, and holding a newborn dragon. Then the dragon stirred in her arms. It opened its glowing red eyes and let out another piercing shriek. And that's when everything changed. The room started to spin. Not just the room, but everything. The walls, the floor, the figures, her mom. Everything was swirling around her in a chaotic vortex of light and color. She felt a strange pulling sensation, like something was ripping her apart from the inside out. And then she saw it. A memory. Not her memory, but someone else's. She was standing in a lush garden, surrounded by flowers and trees. A woman with long, flowing hair was holding a baby dragon in her arms. She was singing a lullaby in a language Millie didn't understand, but somehow she knew it. She felt it deep in her soul. And then the woman looked at her, directly at her, and Millie saw her face. It was her, but not her now. Her before, her past life. She was the woman in the garden. She was the mother of the dragon. And then the memory faded. The room stopped spinning. And Millie knew. She knew who she was. She knew what she had to do. She looked at the figures, her eyes blazing with a newfound power. "You want him?" she said, her voice strong and clear. "Come and get him." But as she said those words, a searing pain ripped through her head. It felt like her brain was on fire. And then, everything went black. When she woke up, she was lying on the floor of the motel room. Her mom was kneeling beside her, her face etched with worry. "Millie, are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. Millie looked around. The figures were gone. The dragon was gone. Where is he?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Her mom hesitated. "Millie," she said slowly, "there's something you need to know." She took a deep breath and continued. "The baby. It wasn't a dragon." Millie stared at her, confused. But I saw it. I felt it. It had scales and red eyes." "It was a glamour," her mom said. "A powerful illusion, designed to protect it." "Protect it from what?" Millie asked, her heart pounding in her chest. Her mom's eyes filled with tears. "Millie," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "the baby, it's not yours." "Millie," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "the baby, it's not yours." My head swam. Not mine? What was she saying? I felt it kick. I pushed it out. It had to be mine. Right? "What do you mean, Mom? Of course it's mine." I just gave birth to it," I yelled, my voice cracking. Her eyes welled up. "Millie, honey, that baby, it was never alive. Not really. It was a vessel, a container." "A vessel? A container for what?" My mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. The dragons, the shadows, the chosen one. And now this? A container for what, Mom? "What are you talking about?" She took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Millie, you were never pregnant. Daniel, he did something to you, something unnatural. He implanted something inside you, something evil." "Evil? Planted? Like a frickin' seed?" I felt sick to my stomach. Daniel, that snake. He hadn't just been playing me, he'd been using me. "What did he plant, Mom? What was it?" My voice trembled. I didn't want to know, but I had to. She looked down, avoiding my gaze. "Millie, he planted himself." My blood ran cold. Himself? What did that even mean? "I don't understand," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Daniel, he wasn't human, Millie. He was something else, something ancient, something demonic. And that thing you gave birth to, it was his essence, his seed. He was trying to reincarnate." "Reincarnate? Using me? As a freaking incubator?" I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was too much. "So, the baby, the dragon, it was him? A piece of him?" I choked out, tears streaming down my face. She nodded slowly. "A piece of him. A seed that would have grown into something terrible. But it's gone now. They took it." "They? Who the hell was they?" "The shadowy figures?" Suddenly, a realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Wait, if it was him, if it was his essence, then where is he now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My mom's face paled. "That's the problem, Millie. When they took the baby, they took him too. He's back, stronger than ever." And then she said the words that shattered everything. "Millie, Daniel is your father. My world exploded. My father? Daniel? The man who'd used me, betrayed me, almost killed me? Was my freaking father? I stared at her, speechless, my mind reeling. It couldn't be true. It just couldn't. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, that's impossible. My father, he died before I was born. That's what you were told, Millie. But it wasn't true. He faked his death. He's been watching you, waiting for you. He needed you, Millie. You were the key to his return. A sob escaped my lips. My whole life, everything I thought I knew, it was all a lie. Why? Why would he do this to me? I cried, my voice breaking. My mom's eyes were full of sorrow. He needed a vessel, Millie, someone with the right bloodline, someone special. And you, my dear, you have it. Bloodline that goes back centuries. A bloodline that's tainted. Tainted? What was she talking about? Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my head, even worse than before. I cried out, clutching my temples. Images flashed before my eyes. Dark forests, ancient rituals, a woman screaming in agony. And then I saw it, a symbol etched into my skin, hidden beneath my clothes, a symbol I'd never seen before, but somehow I knew. It was the symbol of the demon, the symbol of Daniel. And then I understood. I wasn't just the key to his return. I was a part of him, a part of his plan. I was marked. I looked at my mom, my eyes wide with terror. What does it mean? I gasped, my voice barely audible. She looked at me, her face filled with dread. It means, Millie, that you're not just his daughter, you're his heir. The world faded to black. This couldn't be my life. This couldn't be happening. But as consciousness slipped away, one thought echoed in my mind. What am I becoming? It means, Millie, that you're not just his daughter. You're his heir. The world faded to black. This couldn't be my life. This couldn't be happening. But as consciousness slipped away, one thought echoed in my mind. What am I becoming? I woke up with a gasp, my head throbbing. Mom was still there, her face pale and drawn. The motel room felt colder, emptier. What did you do? I mumbled, trying to sit up. I had to, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I had to block the connection. He was trying to take over. Take over? My body? My mind? The thought was terrifying. Is he gone? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She hesitated. Not entirely. The mark is still there, but it's dormant. For now. That meant he could come back. That meant I was a walking time bomb. What am I supposed to do? I cried, tears streaming down my face. How am I supposed to live with this? She took my hand, her grip firm. We'll figure it out, together. We have to. But even as she said the words, I could see the doubt in her eyes. This was bigger than both of us. This was a battle against an ancient evil, and I was right in the middle of it. Suddenly, a loud crash came from outside the motel room. We both jumped, our hearts pounding. What was that? I whispered, fear gripping me. Mom stood up, her eyes narrowed. Stay here, I'll check it out. She moved towards the door, her hand reaching for something hidden beneath her jacket. A gun? A knife? I didn't know. She opened the door a crack, peering outside. Then she gasped. "Millie, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling. I hesitated. I didn't want to see anything. I just wanted to hide, to disappear. But I knew I couldn't. I had to face whatever was out there. I got up and walked to the door, peering over Mom's shoulder. And what I saw made my blood run cold. Standing in the middle of the motel parking lot was Daniel. But it wasn't the Daniel I knew, the charming millionaire with the melting eyes. This Daniel was different. His eyes glowed with a demonic red light, and his face was twisted into a cruel, mocking grin. And behind him stood an army. Not an army of soldiers, but an army of monsters. Shadowy figures with glowing eyes, creatures with razor-sharp claws, and beings so hideous that I couldn't even comprehend their forms. "Hello, Millie," Daniel said, his voice dripping with malice. "I've come to collect what's mine." Mine? Was he talking about me or something else? Then a figure stepped forward from the crowd. A woman, tall, elegant, with a cruel smile on her face. She looked familiar. "Millie," Daniel said, gesturing towards the woman, "I'd like you to meet your grandmother." My grandmother? But that was impossible. My grandmother was dead. The woman smiled, her eyes cold and calculating. "Hello, dear," she said, her voice like silk. "It's so nice to finally meet you. We have so much to discuss about your destiny and your birthright." And then she did something that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. She reached out her hand, and a ball of pure white light formed in her palm. And then she healed Mom. The woman who had been protecting me, fighting for me, risking her life for me, wasn't my mother at all. She was a guardian, an agent, someone sent to protect me from my own family. My real family? A coven of demonic monsters, led by my father and my grandmother? I looked at Mom, at my guardian, her eyes wide with betrayal. The real lie, the one that had been buried deepest, had finally surfaced. I wasn't just Daniel's daughter. I was part of something far bigger, far darker, and far more twisted than I could have ever imagined. And the worst part? A part of me, deep down, felt like I was finally home. I looked at Mom, at my guardian, her eyes wide with betrayal. The real lie, the one that had been buried deepest, had finally surfaced. I wasn't just Daniel's daughter. I was part of something far bitter, far darker, and far more twisted than I could have ever imagined. And the worst part? A part of me, deep down, felt like I was finally home. "So you're telling me," I said, my voice shaking, "that everything I thought I knew was a lie?" My guardian, bless her heart, looked like she wanted to disappear. She couldn't meet my eyes. "Millie, I did what I thought was best. To protect you." Protect me? By lying to me my whole life? By letting me think I was normal? I yelled, the words tearing out of me. Daniel, my father, God, that still sounded insane, just smirked. Normal? Darling, you were never normal. You were always destined for greatness. Greatness? Is that what you call this? Being a pawn in your sick game? I spat, my hands clenching into fists. My grandmother, this elegant, evil woman, stepped forward. Now, Millie, let's not be rude to family. We have so much to teach you. About your powers, your legacy. Powers? Legacy? What powers? All I felt was a gaping hole where my life used to be. I don't want anything to do with you, I screamed. I want to go back to my life, before all this. Before the park bench, before Daniel, before the dragon baby, before everything. Daniel laughed, a cold, chilling sound. You can't go back, Millie. There's no going back. You're one of us now. And then he did something that made my blood run colder than ice. He snapped his fingers, and the world tilted. Not metaphorically, literally. The ground beneath my feet shifted. The sky turned an ugly shade of green, and the entire motel started to melt, like a Dali painting gone wrong. What's happening? I stammered, clutching my head. My grandmother smiled. We're just taking you home, dear, showing you where you truly belong. We were moving fast, through dimensions, through realities, through something that felt like a nightmare on steroids. The monsters around us were laughing, howling, reveling in the chaos. And then we stopped. We were standing in front of, well, I don't even know how to describe it. A city, maybe? But a city made of shadows and nightmares. Buildings that twisted into the sky. Streets that oozed with something black and viscous. An air that tasted like ash and despair. Welcome home, Millie, Daniel said, his voice echoing through the desolate landscape. Welcome to Shadowfell. Shadowfell. It sounded like something out of a bad horror movie. But this was real. This was my life now. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. A searing, burning pain that spread through my entire body. I gasped, clutching my chest, falling to my knees. What's wrong, Millie? My guardian asked, rushing to my side. But I couldn't answer. The pain was too intense. It felt like something was tearing me apart from the inside out. And then I saw it. A light, a pure, white light, emanating from my chest. It grew brighter and brighter until it was blinding. And then it exploded, not with a bang, but with a wave of pure, raw power. The monsters around us recoiled, screaming in pain. Daniel staggered back, his face contorted with rage. And then I understood. The mark. The mark that Daniel had placed on me. It wasn't just a connection to him. It was a failsafe, a way to control me. But it was also something else, something powerful, something divine. Because the light, it wasn't just light. It was hope. Hope that had been dormant inside me, waiting to be awakened. Hope that was now unleashed, threatening to destroy everything around me. And then it happened. The guardian, the woman I thought was my mom, screamed. A blood-curdling, agonizing scream. I looked at her, my heart stopping in my chest, and I saw it. The light, it wasn't just hurting the monsters. It was hurting her too, because the woman who had protected me, lied to me, loved me, was one of them, a demon, working for the other side. And I had just unleashed the power that would destroy her. Isso foi horrível. Preciso de mais. The guardian, the woman I thought was my mom, screamed. A blood-curdling, agonizing scream. I looked at her, my heart stopping in my chest, and I saw it. The light. It wasn't just hurting the monsters. It was hurting her too. Because the woman who had protected me lied to me, loved me was one of them, a demon, working for the other side. And I had just unleashed the power that would destroy her. I stumbled back, horror flooding my veins. No, it can't be. Daniel, or whatever twisted version of him stood before me, actually looked amused. Surprise, Millie! Turns out your little bodyguard here wasn't quite as pure as she seemed. My guardian, my demon guardian, was writhing on the ground, clutching at her chest, the white light searing her skin. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with not hatred, but a desperate kind of sadness. Millie, I tried, she gasped, her voice cracking. Tried what? To protect me? Or to deliver me to these freaks? I screamed, tears streaming down my face. The elegant grandmother figure chuckled. Oh, she tried to protect you, dear, for years. But blood is thicker than water, isn't it? You were always destined to come home. Suddenly, the ground started to shake again. But this time, it wasn't from my light. It was coming from beneath us, from the very depths of Shadowfell. The ground cracked open, revealing a gaping chasm filled with swirling darkness. And from that darkness, something rose, something huge, something terrifying. It was a creature unlike anything I'd ever seen, even in this nightmare realm. A colossal, winged beast with scales like obsidian and eyes that burned with hellfire. It towered over us, its shadow engulfing the entire city. And then it spoke. Its voice was a deafening roar that echoed through my skull. "Daughter," it boomed, "welcome to your birthright." I stared, paralyzed with fear. What was this thing? Some kind of ultimate demon? Daniel bowed his head, a sickeningly sweet smile on his face. "Father," he said, his voice dripping with reverence, "I present to you your granddaughter." Father? Granddaughter? My mind shattered. My world imploded. This monster was my grandfather. But there was no time to process the sheer gut-wrenching horror of that realization, because the creature was reaching for me. Its massive claw extended towards me, the heat radiating from its touch almost unbearable. And then my supposed guardian did the unthinkable. With a surge of demonic strength, she shoved me forward, directly into the path of the monster's claw. "I'm sorry, Millie," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the creature's roar. "This was always your destiny." The last thing I saw before the claw engulfed me was her face. And in that moment, I finally understood. She wasn't protecting me. She was delivering me to my real family. And then, darkness. But even in the darkness, I could hear it. The laughter, the triumphant, chilling laughter of my father and my grandfather. And then, a whisper, so faint I almost missed it. A whisper that came from deep within my own soul. "Finally, I'm home. Finally, I'm home." Everything went white. Not the peaceful, heavenly kind of white. This was a burning, searing, agonizing white that felt like my very soul was being ripped apart and examined under a microscope. Then, nothing. Silence. I don't know how long I was out. Felt like years. But when I finally came to, I wasn't in Shadowfell anymore. Or at least, not the Shadowfell I had just glimpsed. This place, it was different. Twisted, sure, but also beautiful. Lush, Dark forests stretched as far as the eye could see. The air hummed with a strange energy, and the sky was a swirling canvas of purples, reds, and blacks. And then I saw him, standing in the middle of a clearing, bathed in the eerie light of the Shadowfell sky. Daniel, but not Daniel as a demon. Not Daniel as my father. Daniel as a little boy, no older than 7 or 8, with wide, innocent eyes and a shock of dark hair falling across his forehead. He was holding a beat-up teddy bear, and he looked scared. "Hello, Millie," he said, his voice small and trembling. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. What was happening? Was this some kind of trick? Some kind of hallucination? "Don't be afraid," he said, taking a tentative step towards me. I'm not him anymore. Not really." What is this?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely a whisper. He looked down at his teddy bear, his lower lip trembling. This is where he started. Where I started. Before everything went wrong. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. He wasn't always like this, you know. My father. He was good once. He loved me. He protected me. Protected you? He's a monster. He just tried to use me. He's evil, I screamed, the words tearing out of me. The little boy flinched. "I know," he said, his voice barely audible. "I know what he did, and I'm so sorry." He took another step closer, and then he reached out his hand. "Please, Millie," he said, his voice breaking. Help me stop him before it's too late." And then I saw it. A flicker, a spark, something familiar. In his eyes, I saw a glimpse of the man I had briefly known, the charming, handsome stranger who had offered me warmth and shelter, the man I had almost fallen for. And I realized it was him, trapped inside, buried beneath layers of darkness and demonic influence, but still there, fighting. And I knew, in that moment, what I had to do. I took his hand, and as our fingers touched, the world around us began to shake. The sky turned black. The trees twisted into grotesque shapes. And a voice, a booming, thunderous voice, echoed through the forest. "What have you done, child?" The voice of my grandfather. And then everything went black. The world twisted, again. And then nothing. I was standing in a place that felt familiar. A park. A normal park, with green grass, trees, and people. Normal people, laughing, playing, living their lives. It was Chicago, but different, brighter, cleaner, almost perfect. Then I saw her, standing by a pond, feeding the ducks. A woman, beautiful, radiant, and holding a baby. My baby? I ran towards her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Millie," she said, turning around. It was me. But not me. Another version of me. A version of me that had never met Daniel. A version of me that had a normal life, a normal family. "What is this?" I whispered, tears streaming down my face. She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "This is what could have been," she said. "What should have been." She handed me the baby, and as I held it in my arms, I felt a surge of something. Love? Peace? Acceptance? Maybe. And then the baby started to glow, and the glow spread through me, through the park, through the entire city. The light washed over everything, purifying, cleansing, healing. And then it was gone. I was back in Shadowfell, but it was different now. Darker, more twisted, more empty. Daniel was gone. My grandfather was gone. Everyone was gone, except me. And then I heard a voice, a familiar voice. Millie? I turned around. It was my guardian. But she wasn't a demon anymore. She was human. What happened? I asked, my voice trembling. She smiled, a real smile. You did it, Millie, she said. You saved us all. I had no idea what she was talking about. But then I saw it, in the distance, a new light. A light that was growing stronger and brighter with each passing moment. A light that was pushing back the darkness. A light that was hope. What is that? I asked, pointing. She smiled. That, Millie, she said, is your future. And then she stepped into the light, and she was gone. I was alone. Again. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I took a deep breath, and I started to walk towards the light. What did it all mean? Was it really over? I had no idea. And maybe, just maybe, that was the point. Hey, you made it to the end. Can you believe what just happened? But the story doesn't really end here. It's just getting started. And you need to be a part of it. So, what are you waiting for? You absolutely must hit that subscribe button right now, so you don't miss the next chapter of this insane saga. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel, so we can keep these stories coming. Smack that like button. Let's show the algorithm what we're made of. This is the moment to demonstrate your support, and don't forget to inundate the comments section with your reactions. I want to hear all your theories. What did you think of that ending? What do you think is going to happen next? Let me know. Finally, and this is super important, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this roller coaster. Don't wait mais un segundo to share this, because without you, the story wouldn't be possible. Help them see what you just saw. See you in the comments. And remember, you need to subscribe. There's so much more to come, and you don't want to miss it, right? I promise you, you don't know what it's going to be, but this is only the beginning.